And we've got a clock. Now if this can get kicked in. There's the preview. All right. And let me click on that. All right. Cool. All right. Let me just adjust the microphone a touch. Okay, we're all good there. And good morning. I forgot to pop out the chat so I can see it easily. Let me do that. It changed. Looks like they changed the interface just a touch. But we're good. Okay. There we go. Let me see here. It is cloudy but nice for Wisconsin outside here in the area, and that's good. I think it might start to get a little sunnier, so I may have to adjust the camera. It was really bright yesterday during the Irregulars show. I do a monthly show just for the Irregulars, the $4 people on Patreon, and so I had to adjust the camera, and then this morning it was really dark, so I had to adjust it back, but I may have to adjust it again. Also, I'm getting over a cold. The video you saw on Friday was actually filmed on Tuesday of last week, which was just before the cold hit, so that's why I don't sound like I sound now. Mostly everything has stopped leaking, thankfully. Thankfully, I had this happen before Devta Con as opposed to next week when I'm going to be going to Devta Con, but there we are. Who've we got outside in the chat? Well, we've got beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. We've got Buck Fastley, UK, Czech Republic, Netherlands, Central Texas. I'll be in Austin in a couple of weeks, so just FYI there. Frankfurt, Germany. Nashville, let's see here. We've got Detroit, Michigan. We've got Runcorn, UK. First time watching from Norwich or Norwich. There's so many silent letters or sometimes invisible letters in actual English cities. But so I apologize if I get those wrong. What else have we got here? Toledo, Ohio, Ramstein, Germany. We've got moderator Matt in the chat. Daddy is tired, he says. He's been packaging and getting ready with wreckage stuff to take with him to Devta Con next week. So, nobody, you guys be nice to him is what I'm saying. We've got Alberta, Ontario. Bleep Bloop says, hey, Adam, enjoy Devta Con this week. I won't be there, but hope to catch you at another convention in the future. We were at LVO. Yes, Bleep Bloop had the really awesome Death Army that I took pictures of and put onto Instagram. Huntsville, Alabama. Manchester, I can pronounce that one. Australia, Edinburgh. Joseph asks, right on, where in Austin? Would love to come out. I will be at Steve Jackson Games at their first ever convention. It's called FNORDCon, F-N-O-R-D, FNORD, which stands for no other reason, damn it. Anyway, yeah, so it's going to be not this upcoming weekend, which is the Adepticon. It's the weekend after that, first weekend in April. Munich, Germany. What else have we got? Scotland. Savannah, Georgia. Baton Rouge. Hi from Germany. We've got Spain. Sussex. Winnipeg. Manitoba. Good morning from Chicago. Berlin, Germany. Holy crap, I made an actual live show. Greetings from Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Spectacular. Glad to have you. Salt Lake City, Utah. Wargaming Lobby says, hey, Adam, I hope I'll see you at Adepticon. Currently, I'm planning on actually having a meetup. Me and Sam are going to have a meetup to get together with viewers and stuff like that. We're looking at sometime on Friday. We're not 100% sure when yet. We're still trying to nail that one down. Let me see. What else have we got? Paris, France. My son are just getting into the hobby. Well, that's cool. London, UK. Scotland, Omaha, sunny Blackpool. Finally making a live show. McKinney, Texas. Nottingham, Vermont. Walter Boudreau says, I don't know what FLGS is. FLGS stands for Friendly Local Game Store. Durham, UK, Italy, hello from Milwaukee, Puerto Rico, South Wales, Manchester, England, Coventry, England. I'm so torn between Black Legion and Alpha Legion for my Demonkin. I'm Black Legion. My current Chaos Army is predominantly Black Legion, or at least a good portion Black Legion, mixed in with some corn and some Nurgle, because you know how I like soup. I should make a T-shirt with just a big bowl of soup on it. But yeah, I'm rarely ever faction pure in any kind of GW game these days. Age of Sigmar, my Chaos Army is a mess of Slaves to Chaos, Skaven, Goat People, Nurgle dudes, just all kinds of junk in there. But they all got the Chaos keyword, so it's not probably the best for being, what do you call it, effective on the battlefield, but I don't care. Thompson, Manitoba, Gothenburg, Sweden. Greetings from New York City. New York City. Hi from Poland. Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Just used the old Abaddon in his last game. Yes. For some reason, and those of you who are irregulars who were in the show yesterday, I said at the end of the show, I'm going to my shop to pick up Abaddon and the new Chaos guys. For some reason, I thought they came out yesterday, but they went on pre-order yesterday, so I won't be able to get them until I get back from a Devta Con. So that's fine. What I did pick up is... I picked up the new Skull Taker model, which is amazing. He has a cloak that is made of skulls, which is a hard feat to do, and probably makes him very, very sneaky. It must be incredibly easy to sneak around as a 9-foot-tall, evil demon beast when your entire cloak is made out of dried skulls. I'm sure that that's not noisy at all. But it's an awesome-looking model, and I'm going to use it for a project I've got down the road. So I figured I'd pick one of those up. So I'll get Abaddon and the other dudes probably, like I said, later on. Let me see here. If you mix Death Guard into Black Legion, would Disgustingly Resilient still work? It's a good question. I'm not sure. I mean, not for the guys who are Black Legion, but for the Nurgle dudes, it should still work. I think we've got a cat who wants to sing us the song of her people. At least I can hear it. Joseph says, sweet, Steve Jackson Games is only a 21-minute drive from me. Definitely will come out and chill for a bit. I don't know that the convention is at Steve Jackson Games. If you go onto their website, or if you just do a Google search for FNORDCon, FNORDCON, it'll tell you where it's at. It's at some convention center, I think. So that's where it's at. But yeah, the information should be, like I said, I think on their website. I've got some friends also in Atlanta. I've got some friends also in Austin, so that's another reason I'm going, kind of a 2-for-1 sort of a situation. I'm going to go see them and also go to the convention. Cedar Falls, Iowa. Myersville, Maryland. Hi from Plymouth. I'm burning all my furniture. New house on Tuesday with my own 2-room nerd bunker. Sleeping on floor till then. Well, it's cool that you're going to have your own place and a 2-room nerd bunker. I don't know about burning all the furniture. I guess if that if it works out for you, that's pretty cool. So yeah, Lee says currently building the models from Shadowspear. The Chaos models are awesome. They are going in my army of word bearers. Yeah, the models look amazing, and we'll kind of talk about that in a bit. But yeah, definitely. Let me see, what else have we got here? Corn is not known for subtlety. No, that's very true. Very true. Cats need attention, says Randall. Actually, one of them, they have these toys. It's pieces of fleece material that came with them from the shelter when we got them, and they're kind of braided, and it's like a long kind of rope of different just fleece material. And all of the cats you get from the shelter come with these. And my wife and I refer to them as fleecies. I don't know why. We just do. Anyway, so Maggie, one of the cats, she will hold one in her mouth and walk around the house with it for reasons, dragging it kind of behind her and meowing, and so we refer to that as a Fleecy Parade. So that's, I think she was doing it, but it was in slightly other room. You may have heard it, but maybe not. Michael Strange says, I held a Shadowspear box in my hands yesterday with money in my pocket. However, my pile of shame still includes Dark Imperium, Shadow War, and Dark Vengeance. I have a problem. that's kind of. I'm not saying it's good, but I'm not saying that you're the only one either. Certainly, plenty of people are in the same situation. Shadowspear, I have to admit, I do not know how long of a is it a limited edition thing? They're going to crank it out and then be done with it? Is it going to be available for years and years and years? Hard to say. They haven't said. I bought mine at my local shop. I didn't get a copy sent to me by GW or anything like that, but I bought mine at the local shop. And luckily, the shop that I go to has a deal where for every $100 you spend, and they have not a card, but you use it. They use a register that's like an iPad, and the point of sale system that they use tracks what you buy. And for certain things, it doesn't for paints and magazines and brushes and stuff like that. No, but for normal models and for games, it counts that up. And every time you spend $100, then you get a star. And that's worth $15 off your next purchase. So that's nice with the bigger purchases like that. But yeah, that's where that's at right now. Darren says, did everyone see that all iBooks versions of the previous Chaos Space Marines Codex is getting updated for free? Excellent move, GW. Yeah, I did read that, and I think that is a smart idea. Especially since basically, from what I'm understanding, the new book is, for lack of a better term, a bit superfluous. If you have the old book, like I do, and then you either buy, I've heard that if you buy Shadowspear, you're good, or if you buy the Vigilus campaign thingy, then you're good. Then you don't need to get the version 2 book. If you are brand new, well, then you should probably buy the version 2 book, because probably the old book's going to go away. Although I'm sure there'll probably still be shops with a bunch of the number 1, the version 1 books still in there. But so we'll see there. Connor says, good afternoon from Dublin, Ireland. First time catching this live. Time to paint some skeletons. I've got a video about painting hordes of skeletons, and it's a lot of fun. Yeah, I like skeletons a lot. Andre asks, which con should first-time wargaming player attend to get the fullest of the event? Which convention is the best one for a first-time wargamer? That's a good question. So of the big 3, in my mind, being Devta Con, the Nova Open, and Las Vegas Open, LVO. That's a good question. I mean, I would probably say Devta Con or LVO, Devta Con or Nova. And the reasons for this are that Nova is really about the competitive play. There are some hobby things. There's some hobby seminars and stuff like that, but not a lot. If you want to learn how to paint and you want to take classes from pros and have them teach you how to paint, then you want to go to a Devta Con or Nova. At that point, then it becomes how close are either of them to you. Devta Con's in the middle of the country, so it's in just outside of Chicago, and Nova is about 4 miles away from the White House in D.C. So it's technically in Northern Virginia, but it's right there. So if you're on East Coast, I would look towards Nova. If you're in the middle of the country or the West Coast, I would look towards that. If you just want to also go to Vegas and do Vegas stuff, well, then LVO is great. But if you're a first timer, again, if you're there's demos and there's but it's really about the competitive play. They have a humongous 40K championship. This year it was between 700 and 800 folks that were playing in this giant championship. So, if it's your first time, that may not be the thing you want to do. But yeah, I would say in that situation. Or if you live near, say, Wisconsin, you might be interested in going to the Tabletop Minions Expo in June. It is June 8th and 9th, 2019, in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And you can find out more information at www.tabletopminions.org/TMX. The TMX is basically, instead of having any kind of tournaments, there's no tournaments, and it is mostly all demos and some classes and things like that. It's very small too, so it's very low energy. Getting into a Devta Con, that's 5,000 people. I think Nova is close to 3,000. Last year, TMX had 65-ish people. So, if you're in the area and you want to check it out, you should definitely go. There will be people, that from this chat that will be there. So you can meet some of those folks as well. Let me see. Daniel says, good morning from York, Pennsylvania. The 5.1 Game 4 update fixed notifications issue with Android. Very happy. Is the person who checked in from Carlisle, Pennsylvania on Game 4, and do they play 40K or Kill Team? Well, if you live in Carlisle and you're watching currently, you should download the Game 4 app. Go check it in your local app store, whether it's Android or iOS. And then maybe you can get together with Daniel and play some 40K or Kill Team. We've been actually making a lot of updates to the Game 4 app recently. If you are interested in the Game 4 app, you should go to www.iamgamefor, so that's IAMGAMEFOR.com, and then you could check out and find out more. It's my day job. This is not my day job. This is my side hustle, as the kids like to say. My day job is I work for a company. We make apps and stuff like that. And one of the apps we made, because we're all tabletop gamers there, we're a really small shop, we made an app for helping gamers find each other and get together and play games, and also find local shops and find all kinds of stuff like that. So, it's a good app, and you should give it a try if you can. It's also worldwide, so it'll work pretty much anywhere. Greetings from the Netherlands. Currently painting Robert Gorilla Man. He is a real pain in the ass. Yeah, there's a lot of trim on that guy. There's a lot of blue and gold, and a lot of gold trim. I've looked at really nice ones, and I've looked at ones that look like they made that person who painted them very unhappy. So that's why I never did that. That's why I've never bought that model. Plus, I don't really play Ultramarines, really. I mean, I kind of do. I play the Ultramarine chapter tactics generally with my Primaris dudes, but that's about it. Let me see here. Brian Griffith asks, is it true that they arrest you in Oshkosh if you're not wearing overalls? No, that is not true. Actually, the Oshkosh B'gosh company, all their overalls get made out of China now, and they got bought by somebody else, and they're not even based out of, they're based out of I think Atlanta now. So yeah, no, not anymore. Back in the day, maybe, but not since I've been around. Callum says, hey, Tabletop Minions, do you guys play any mobile Warhammer games, as in Horus Heresy Legions or the Deathwatch one? I think I played Space Hulk. I played a Space Hulk game on my iPad once, a couple years back, but that's about as far as it goes. I've got some friends that play the Horus Heresy card game. They were playing the heck out of it at Gen Con last year, and I looked at it for a couple of minutes, and then I was like, nah, it's just... I don't really play much in the way of mobile games at all. I don't know why. I just don't. Yeah. Tony says, definitely heading to TMX this summer. Pretty excited. It'll be my first con. If you sign up for a weekend pass, you save $1. That is very true. $1 whole. That's a very good point. Leet Sarge says, Game 4 has such an active community in Toronto and Mississauga. I think I pronounced that properly. Wish more folks on my side of the border would start using it. Well, that's good. I mean, it's good to hear that's, going off in there. Yes, people are asking the name of the app, and there it is, Game 4. Let me see here. Hello from France. Love your channel. I recently went back into the hobby. I want to use my old fantasy minis for Age of Sigmar. Do you have a method to remove bases on plastic models? Cheers. So... one easy-ish way that can be dangerous. Not dangerous to you, but dangerous to the model. One easy way is to put them in the freezer. If you used super glue, or CA glue to glue them together. If you use plastic glue, this won't work. But if you used originally a super glue kind of thing to glue them, if you put them in the freezer, you can then, like, overnight, and then you should be able to pop the base, like, seriously, like, right off, because the freezing makes that glue bond very brittle. The problem is it will also make the glue bond on the arms and the head and all the other junk also pretty brittle. So you run a risk of basically kind of, again, if it was super glue, CA glue, you might just be able to just slowly and just actually just pop it off without having to work too hard. If that doesn't work, you may be able to take like a flat blade and try to get it underneath their feet. But if they're the type of model where there's like a bar in between their feet that you put into the slot in the base, then I don't know. Then you're kind of boned. Those are hard. That's why I don't like the little slot bases, actually. Excuse me. Yeah, that's a tough one, honestly. There may be companies out there that make bases that are designed to go around the square to make it into a round, but I haven't seen that. I've seen bases that are turning 25s into 32s, that are like a ring that kind of goes around, but I don't think I've seen any that turn a square into a circle. You know what I mean? But yeah, so we'll have to figure that out, or you'd have to figure that out. That's a tough one, honestly. Like I said, if they've got the bar in between their feet and it's the slotted base, then it's just super hard. Then you're just basically trying to refit and pull it off like that, but you're going to probably mess up the model. In that situation, you may honestly think about just trying to strip the entire model, put it into some sort of like, simple green, if you like that stuff, super clean, which is the purple stuff. I personally I'm not saying I've discovered it. A bunch of people told me, use this yellow stuff called LA's Totally Awesome that you get at the dollar store. At least in America you do. I don't know about overseas. And that stuff worked amazing. If you watch the last Uncle Adam's Hot Mess, which I was working on that Vampire Lord, that yellow stuff worked like crazy. So anyway, those are my options, or my suggestions. So yeah. Never been to Nova, says Darren, but it's in my backyard. Looking for easier experience, I'm thinking of signing up for anything regarding Warhammer Underworlds. Hauling many models gives me anxiety. Yeah, I've never taken like I take that back. I was going to say I've never taken a full army like on the road with me like that, like around a plane or something like that. I did actually take my entire Chaos Army, like 1,500 points probably, with me to the Valhalla 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago, and that included like a Forge Fiend and a Helldrake, and I don't think I had anything bigger than that. And it went surprisingly well, but I did also like overpack everything, lots of extra foam, and I wrapped stuff in saran wrap, and it was like some of it was in my luggage, some of it was in my carry-on. Yeah, but it's doable, but yeah. What else have we got here? Pitts Pilot Gaming says, I'll be at your seminars, one of your seminars Thursday. What are your other plans for Devta Con? Well, I'm shooting some video, some interviews with other hobby seminar teachers, because I'm making a video or potentially a series of videos focusing on, excuse me, hang on a second here. Focusing on, excuse me, the what the hobby seminars at Adepticon are like. I would say that they are probably furthest ahead of all the conventions as far as hobby seminars are concerned, and so I'm working with the folks from Adepticon to kind of make. It's either going to be one video that's maybe longer, or it's going to be a couple of videos, depending on how many interviews I get to do. But I'll be doing that and talking to a bunch of different hobby seminar people. I'll probably talk to Sam, but you guys have seen Sam before, obviously. I'll probably talk to, Kat Jackson, Caleb Wissenbeck. I'd like to talk to Ben Comets. I think he's going to be there. I need to go through and double check and see who's going to be there and get all that figured out in scheduling. That's still more of the giant pile of stuff I got to get done before Wednesday. So yeah, that's a big portion of what I'll be doing while I'm there too. Plus talking to viewers and talking to manufacturers and vendors, and hopefully getting to play a game of something at some point. Currently, we're looking at... Right now, me and Vince Venturella are hopefully going to try to get together a game of Kill Team at some point, but we'll see. So, that's where that goes. A lot of people are saying to cut the bases away with wire cutters. That's not... Yeah, if you're not trying to actually save the base, obviously, which you're probably not if it's a square base. Yeah, it does. Torch says, I just play my Skaven with square bases. I use plastic glue, and I'm not rebasing 100 plus models. Yeah, I can understand that. That totally makes sense. What else have we got here? Evidently, I've got plague and get the leeches on me. Yeah, I haven't tried leeches yet. I should probably be doing that. Honestly, you may not want to shake my hand. I mean, again, like I said, this cold started like Wednesday-ish in the morning, and then Thursday I stayed home from work because I was leaking from just every hole in my face nearly, and I felt terrible, like just like ache, you know. So that's when I thought this is probably a cold and not an allergy, and now I mean I haven't had, you know, leakage for a couple of days, but everything's still sort of kind of plugged up, so I'm probably good, but still, you know, we'll see. What else have we got? Leslie says, a shorter time in the freezer and then put in a very shallow dish where it just covers the base part of the feet of 91% alcohol. Scrape around the edges until you can get under the feet. There's a lot of good options here for getting those bases off. I think that's a good idea. David says, hi, Adam, lifelong fan of Games Workshop here, but only recently taken the plunge and actually buying some plastic. Your work on YouTube has helped so much. So real, heartfelt, and genuine. Thanks from England. Well, I appreciate it. I'm glad that you've gotten into it, and I'm glad that the videos have helped. So, Josh Clark asks, for someone just getting into 40k and wanting to play a skirmish game on the side, would Kill Team or Necromunda be a better option? I would say Kill Team, because then you can kind of double dip with the models. If you're getting into 40k, like my Chaos Kill Team is made up from dudes who are in my Chaos 40k army. So, at least currently they are. Soon that may change, but you can do that kind of stuff. If you're playing Adeptus Mechanicus, you can take people out of your Adeptus Mechanicus, like Rangers and Infiltrators and Vanguards and stuff like that, and put them into your Kill Team, and then there you go. So you can sort of have two uses for models, and it works out quite well. So, yeah. Just recently bought a Sonic Dreadnought off eBay. I don't even know what a Sonic Dreadnought is. Is it some Slanesh thing? Or, yeah. Any tips or products for paint removal you'd recommend? Well, again, if you can get LA's Totally Awesome. LA like Los Angeles, I guess. LA's Totally Awesome. It's this yellow stuff that I get at the dollar store. I get a 32-ounce bottle for like $1, and it works crazy good. So yeah, that I was really impressed by it, honestly. I'm more impressed with it because my old favorite was called Super Clean, which was aka the purple drink. It was this purple stuff, and it worked. I think it works better than Simple Green, but LA's Totally Awesome seems to blow both of them out of the water. So that's what I would take a look at. A lot of people also talk about rubbing alcohol or some sort of alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. I don't know if it's the same stuff. Like 91% or whatever. That's also not a bad idea. If the model's metal, which I'm sure it's probably not if it's a vehicle, then people talk about acetone, like if the stuff's really... But that stuff is wicked dangerous, so I wouldn't even mess with that. Hi, Adam. I have a big problem. I either washed too heavy or used a glossy wash on my dirty orc boys, so some came out shiny. Easy way to make them more matte. Well, I would go to your local hobby shop and see if you can get Tester's Dull Coat. I think it's spelled Dulcote, which is not the way you would normally spell dull coat, but that's their brand name. You can get it in a little rattle can, like not a big normal spray can, but like a little short one. It's not cheap, but it works really generally pretty well. Do not spray it in your house, as it is smelly as all get out. So I would want to do it outside. If you have an airbrush, then my new jam as far as matte varnish is it's hard to get, kind of, but you can get it online. If you've got a local shop that carries it, then you are a lucky person. It is called AK Interactive, like AK, I don't know, AK-47, I guess. AK Interactive, and it's called Ultra Matte Varnish. I think it's what it's called, Ultra Matte Varnish. And it is, you can brush it on if you want to, but it also works real nice in an airbrush, and it is spectacular. It is probably one of the best matte varnishes easily that I've ever used. So I'm real happy with that stuff. Those are your pretty much best options in my opinion. A lot of like stuff that you get at Walmart, like, Valspar, matte spray, those are all not great. They don't really actually get matte. There's also, and it's gonna start getting warmer here soon, and then there's another can of stuff that you're supposed to spray on windows to make them frosted, and now I can't think of the name. Is it Rust-Oleum? I think it's Rust-Oleum. I'm going to do a video about that stuff, I think, at some point, hopefully, once it gets a little bit warmer, and then I'll be able to use it on some models and give it a try. I do really want to make a video soon about, like here's 3 different matte sprays and show you, like, I want to take 3 models that are identical and then, like, dip them in gloss so that they're exactly the same amount of glossy, scientific, certainly. And then go that direction and show you, well, this is what happens when you do this, and this is what happens when you do that, and see. But, yeah, definitely. What else? Don't try mineral spirits, says Randall, because they're super flammable. Yeah, no, that's very true. A lot of people are saying that Lamian, I can't remember how to pronounce it. Lamian Medium, which is a medium that you can buy. It's a GW Citadel paint. If your local shop sells, the GW paint rack, it's on there usually. Works well for dull and gloss, but you have to shake it well. So I don't think I've ever tried that before. Eric Sheely says that the bonus of LA's Totally Awesome Cleaner is that it's non-toxic and you can use your bare hands with it. You probably can. I bet you. I used a glove just because, I don't know, I'm a fancy lad, so there's that. Mr. Kavoshi, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Moving to a new home in 2 weeks and going to finally have some space for a hobby room basement. Any suggestions on how to set up a gaming table for 40K and Kill Team? Well, the requirements for both of those games are wildly different. Kill Team normally is played like on a 22 by 30, which is a pretty small board in comparison, whereas normally 40K is played on a 4 by 6. So, yeah, like if you play Kill Team on a 4 by 6, you just got way more extra table than you really need, honestly. So you may actually look at getting like maybe folding tables or something along those lines so you could swap back and forth, or you have your normal 4 by 6 table set up for 40K, you leave that set up, and then maybe you have a smaller card table that you play Kill Team on from time to time that you can put away. That would be something I would probably look at. But yeah, the normal 4 by 6 table is awfully big for a normal game of Kill Team. You're going to have a lot of extra space around, which, some people like that because then there's all this extra room for activities. But, it depends. Brew Geek number 1 says, Uncle Adam, try out Rust-Oleum's Frosted Glass Spray as a very inexpensive alternative to Tester's Dull Coat. I think that's the stuff that I was talking about. So last year at Devta Con, I met a guy named Joe who works for Death Ray Designs. And they're the guys that do a lot of custom or fancy laser cut MDF and stuff like that and all kinds of stuff. Company's owned by Austin Thompson? I think Thompson is the last name. I can't think of it. Anyway, so I was talking to Joe, and he showed me a bunch of his Frostgrave models that he had done, and they were really nicely matte, and he told me that he was using this Rust-Oleum frosted glass. Now, you would think that something that you spray onto glass to make it so you can't see through it would, by definition, frost your models. Frosting a model is when you spray on some kind of varnish and it gets cloudy and then it ruins your model. So you would think that frosted glass stuff would automatically ruin your model, but he's like, no, seriously, it works awesome. And I've bought some, but I bought it like in late fall, and it has been Wisconsin outside this entire time. And so hopefully soon it'll be getting good enough that I can spray outside and feel okay about it. Because the thing is, You can prime when it's really cold, and you can do things, and there's ways you can mitigate it. You can heat the can like in a bowl of warm water and stuff like that, blah blah blah. But I don't want to mess with varnish. So I only varnish when it is nearly perfect varnish weather outside. If I'm going to be using a rattle can, like I'm using dull coat, I don't do it when it's too humid. I don't do it when it's too hot. I don't do it when it's even a little bit too cold, because I don't want it to frost my model. So when it gets good, I do want to definitely test that stuff. But a lot of people have been talking about it lately, and I would assume that it is not a giant like April Fool's joke, just to make us all frost our models. So you might want to look into that. If you live in an area of the country where it is more rattle can friendly, meaning it doesn't get really super crazy cold or super crazy humid like it does here, you may want to look into it and give it a try. So, Brian Griffith says, I keep meaning to set aside the money to buy a Secret Weapon Tablescape while they're on clearance. I bought a Secret Weapon Tablescape. It's like the ruined urban stuff. That's what I'll be doing once the battle reports for Kill Team launch. It'll be on that. It's all painted. I do need to matte varnish it, though. I keep forgetting to do that. I like them. It was fun to paint. It's nice. It's a nice material. I like it a lot. And the one I bought was only like 9 panels. They're like foot by a foot. But it was maybe like $80. Maybe it was $90. Something like that. I liked it. Sam Goose says, I made a mess and applied spray primer too thick. I've painted up to all 20 of the models now, and I'm finishing them off. They look pretty good, but some places the detail's a bit obscured. I can't sleep at night. Should I use Dettol to strip the paint and start over again? That totally depends if it's going to bug you a lot, honestly. If they're like regular troops and there's just a whole bunch of them, if some of them are a little meh and some of them are fine, you're probably not going to notice them altogether. If your entire army is only 20 models and some of them are really bothering you, you may want to strip those and start over. It's up to you. That is the danger of putting your primer on too thick, is that it will obscure the detail. It'll get into sometimes like the little holes in the chainmail if it's a fantasy thing, or it'll fill up, and cover up stuff. That's why you always want to go, what's his name there? Duncan's always like 2 thin coats, but with sprays, it's also important. Like, it may to you look like, well, I'm just spraying, but you need to go spray, let it dry a bit, spray, let it dry a bit. Thin coats of spray can really help it so you don't gunk up all your detail on your really nicely detailed models. Let's see here. I have a Ninja Mini I'm working on. Think Snake from Metal Gear. Trying to highlight both black and gray with lighter grays, but it looks weird. Any tips? Highlighting black is difficult. What I frequently do is I will use a dark gray and I'll dry brush to highlight. And then I will go back over and either throw a black wash over it, which will then kind of dull down the highlights a little bit and not make them so stark. Or sometimes I'll even use a brown wash if I want to have it be a little bit of a warmer dark as opposed to a cool black, a warm black. And then if there's like certain areas you really want to stand out, highlight more, you can go back over the top of the wash once it's completely dried. You always want to let washes completely dry because they will make you super unhappy if you don't. Yeah, you always let washes, and washes, if you really slop them on, they can take a long time to dry, half an hour, 45 minutes. So plan ahead when you're doing like a bunch of stuff and you're like, okay, I got to put a bunch of wash on this base and now I got to go do something else for a half hour. Like, you don't start trying to dry brush the base when it's not dry yet, because it will just make a mess. So that's problematic. But yeah, more often than not, if you're going to do something black, like I'm going to be working on some Death Watch soon. They are currently all primed black. I will first start off by dry brushing them with a dark gray, and then I will probably do a wash over the top of them, either of the black wash like a Null and Oil, or maybe a brown wash like Agrax Earthshade, or I might use some of the Army Painter washes like hard body black or soft body black, some of those, which will then dull it back down again, and then I can go back into certain spots and maybe dry brush a little bit more, like tops of shoulder pad, like ridges, well, although the shoulder pads on Deathwatch, you're going to paint them either one's silver and the other one's a chapter color, so it's not going to matter. But like, Deathwatch have that weird sort of like neck thing going on that their helmets stick out of, and you want to sort of catch the top of that to give that a highlight and things like that. That's the way I would look at it. Andrew says, I've found that using a hood, like for airbrushing, works wonders for rattle cans here in the cold of Wisconsin. The only issue is that you have to replace the filter more often. I get that. Like, I could technically rattle can in my airbrush room down in the basement if I had a hood, and if that hood was actually vented to the outside, which neither things happen down there. Like, there's no window in that room. It used to be a coal bin, I think, back in the olden days. This house is from like 1920. So they used to drive into the driveway and open this weird little door and just dump coal in there, I guess. They don't do it anymore, thankfully. But that door I also think is like welded shut. So I'd have to figure out a way to cut a hole in a steel door to get a vent through there, which I'm not going to do. The main thing that I worry about with rattle can is not the paint, but the fumes. The propellant that makes the paint shoot out of the can is the real stinky part. When you use an airbrush, you're just using air that was in the room that the compressor compressed and then shot up the hose, so there's no smell generally with airbrushing. The concern with airbrushing then is the particleized, which is maybe a science word, I don't know, but it's the paint floating around in the room and then going into your lungs, which is why you wear some sort of respirator. But you're not concerned about the fumes because there are no fumes. You're not using a chemical propellant, you're just using compressed air. So yeah, that's the trick right there. Torch says, to highlight black, I use an almost black base, then wash black. Yeah, it's very subtle. If you use a real like middle gray to try to highlight black, it looks really weird in my opinion. I like to keep my blacks pretty subtle as far as that. If I'm trying to highlight a black armor, that kind of thing, black metal of any kind, like if you got a black metal sword, like the sword that the Emperor's Champion carries around for the Black Templars, or if you're just working on Black Templars, let's say, or Deathwatch, I like to keep it a little bit more subtle than that. When I used to do my Deathwatch, when I used to do my Black Templar, what I used to do I would prime the model black, and then I would spray from above with a very dark gray out of my airbrush, I would make my own super dark gray, and then highlight with that. So then you have now like a bit of a lighter black, basically, for lack of a better, like kind of sprayed from above over normal black. And then I would do a little bit of dry brushing, and then I would wash the whole thing in black, and then it was subtle enough that it worked. But yeah, there's a lot of colors that are difficult in miniature painting. Black is one, white is one, yellow is one, red is one frequently. Yeah, definitely. Does anyone have a link for swamp bases for lizardmen? I don't want a dirty, nasty Nurgle swamp, more like a spawning pool look. If you're looking for like resin bases, I would say probably one of my favorite places to look at resin bases are probably Secret Weapon Miniatures. There are other companies out there, but I've always been kind of happiest with their stuff. So I would look at Secret Weapon Miniatures and do a Google search or whatever, and they have lots and lots and lots of different resin bases if that's what you're looking for. Joe Fredona says model color, and this is Vallejo model color, black gray is a good highlight. It is sort of subtle, or you could just base it in black gray and then use a black wash. Yeah, I like that color quite a bit too. I don't remember if it's black gray or gray black. Anyway, yeah, it's a Vallejo model color, and it is a nice, very dark gray. I have a bottle of that downstairs. Was I using it last night? I might have been. I was working on the Vampire Lord. Since the last miniature hot mess video where you saw the Vampire Lord all primed and everything, I've only put in like an hour and a half one night and then 2.5 hours yesterday after the live show for the Patreon folks, the irregulars. So I've put in 4 hours at this point right now. I just need to finish the base, and do some touch-ups, and he's done. So he's going to get maybe another hour, hour and a half, and then he'll be done. I'll need to shoot video or pictures, good pictures of him and whatnot, probably tomorrow night, and then I'll be able to have the video ready for not Monday, but next Monday. Yeah. So I should mention this. The reason that we had a every other Sunday show last week and now we're having another one this week is because there will not be an every other Sunday show for the next 2 weeks, because I will be in Schaumburg, Illinois, outside of Chicago, next Sunday. And then the Sunday after that, I'll be in Austin. So I will be actually on the road 2 Sundays in a row. So there won't be any every other Sunday shows. So I figured, well, I better do 2 back to back. And then when I get back from Austin the weekend after that, then we'll have another one. So that's why there's this. That's why, if you notice here, I've crossed off the other here in the every other Sunday show to let you know that this is kind of an odd sort of situation. But yeah, so there won't be any every other Sunday show for the next 2 weeks, which is why we've got 2 back to back this week and last week. Yeah, that's pretty much what I got. Let's see here. What else have we got? Julian asks, what do you do when the coal shows up? I guess you used to shovel it into like a furnace or something. I don't know. It's a bunch of old-timey crap. I don't know. Now it's just the air. Well, it used to be the room, because we bought this house from my wife's grandparents. The Airbrush Room, which is the little weird Harry Potter room underneath the stairs into the basement, used to be the room that her grandfather used to write in. So there was a typewriter in there and all kinds of books and stuff like that. And now it's the room that I just basically make very, very dusty with my airbrush. And there's some other wargaming stuff stored in there too. But honestly, a lot of battle foam. That's where I keep most of my battle foam bags too, which probably makes them dusty. I probably ought not to do that, or I should put a sheet over them or something like that. Valhallis Guard says, why don't you varnish with your airbrush? I do. I mean, sometimes I use rattle can outside, but I also frequently use my airbrush. Like I said, the AK Interactive Ultra Matte varnish is pretty freaking good. So yeah, definitely. Let me see here. What's in Austin, says Leslie. I'm going to the Steve Jackson Games gaming convention. It's their first gaming convention. It's called FNORDCon, which is spelled FNORD, which stands for no other reason, damn it. It's an old school Steve Jackson joke, as it turns out. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to that for 2 reasons. Number one, I've got some friends in Austin, so I'll be hanging out a little bit with them, which is nice. But then the other thing is I want to go there because back in the day in college, we played Car Wars nearly every Friday night. We did not go to bars and hang out and look for girls or anything like. We were playing for Car Wars because we had things to do. And so anyway, they are releasing soon. They're in the process right now of making a new version of Car Wars. I can't remember if it's 5th edition or 6th edition. It's one of those. But it's a brand new, totally different version of Car Wars, and I'm interested in checking it out and seeing what it's like. So that's one of the reasons that I'm going. So yeah. Let me see. What else have we got here? Tony asks, is the Tabletop Means Paint Showcase Facebook group not accepting new members? No, not really. I haven't let anybody else new in since the unpleasantness back around Thanksgiving. So sorry about that. I'm going to try to make some changes on that soon. But yeah, that's kind of where that's at. Pugsy, so would you recommend any of the models for Kill Team over, let's say, Intercessors, Reavers, or even normal Marines? So would you recommend any of the models for Kill Team over, say... I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, Pugsy. I guess I like the Intercessors better. I mean, like normal, regular Primaris dudes, the 2 wounds, that's pretty nice. So that's what I do. I don't generally use normal Marines in Kill Team anymore. Except for Chaos, because you don't have a choice, but that's the way that works. Jake asks, do you ever have issues with tip drying with metallic? That's an airbrush question. I cannot spray Vallejo rust. I have... If I use Vallejo white primer and I don't put any kind of flow improver type stuff in it, then I do sometimes get paint that dries on the tip, and then I have to like sort of like... Basically what you have to do is just sort of blast it onto like a piece of paper or something like that and try to get it to kind of clear out. The other thing you can do is when your tip gets a little dry and it gets a little kludgy, you can... This is why I never, on an airbrush, like on the airbrush, this is the front part of the airbrush where the cup is and the needle, it's going that way. And this is the back side of the airbrush, and there's that handle. And you unscrew the handle, and then there's a nut under there that you unscrew, and you take the needle out that way. I never put that handle on. I always just leave it off. And the reason for that is because then I can unscrew the nut and just wiggle the needle back and forth a little bit, and then that always clears the clog up at the front. You just kind of wiggle it back and forth, tighten it back down again, and then spray onto some paper, and it will splatter and get icky, but it'll clear out the problem. And then I go back to airbrushing again. With black, I don't have that problem. I'm sure it has something to do with the pigment. White pigment is frequently larger than other colors, so from what I understand. So yeah, that's definitely the case. Headhunter says, all these decades, and I never knew what Fnord stood for. Glad to help. John asks, do you plan to paint either Abaddon or the new Chaos Marine sculpts? I think that they look great, and I think that I want to make either Night Lord or Alpha Legion kill team. Yes, I mean, I do plan on painting Abaddon. He will eventually go into my Chaos Army, because he's not going, obviously, into kill team. But the other dudes... so, actually, I should probably talk about this. So this is Shadowspear, and it's not actually a super thick box. I was kind of surprised by that. But there's some really awesome models in here. I'm going to open it up. There's also weird bubble wrap. So got that going for me, which is nice. There's 3 small sprues in here, which I think is interesting. I have a suspicion that these will probably be sold separately later on. This one is... This one's the cool captain dude. Let me go to this button here, where you can see me there. All right. So where is he? Captain dude. There we go. Go away, 360 guy. Oh, dang it. You know, these 360s are probably cool unless you actually want to see stuff. Then I don't want that to happen. All right, well, there you go. So here's this guy, and I think he's pretty cool. I could see putting him into my normal Primaris army, potentially, as like the leader maybe of a 2nd battalion or something like that. I could easily see that. Then there is... Oh, go away. This dude. You can see what that guy looks like. He spins around. He's got a goat head. That's sort of fun. And again, this is probably going to be a separate... Stop saying that. This is probably going to be, again, probably something you'll be able to buy down the road. I could be wrong. But normally when they make a sprue this small, this will fit perfectly into one of those little clear plastic clamshells that they sell. And so this guy very possibly will be something you can buy separately outside of Shadowspear eventually. I could be wrong, but I would be surprised if I was. Same with this guy who... Sorry, you guys can't see. I forgot I was doing that. All right, so same with this guy, which is the guy that we're looking at on the screen. And then the last guy that we're looking at of these single sprues is... Oh, where is he? He's being all psychic. There he is. All right, so this guy, yep, spinning around. I gotta say, like, actually seeing these models in person, like, I saw these models. I'm 98% sure these are the models. The models that they photographed for the box and for this stuff on the website are the models that they brought to the Gamma Trade Show in Reno that I was at last week or 2 weeks ago, or whatever it was. I'm 98% sure that this is the same. These are the same studio models that they shot, and the ones that I brought. But this stuff, like this camo on all these folds and stuff like that, was really looked even better in person. Really quite nice. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. That seems wicked hard. At best, I do have some What the heck are they? I have some camouflage, like Fleck Tarn and stuff like that, different sort of stencils from Fallout Hobbies that I picked up at Nova Open last year that I will maybe try. Maybe not on this guy so much because he's also got so much other stuff like this book and these scrolls and crap in the way. Maybe some of these other dudes like this guy, these types of guys, I could see doing some of it like on their backs. Like if I had the, but just, yeah, amazing looking cloaks. And like I said, this pattern is crazy. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff in this box, and the way that I'm looking at it right now is I would definitely like to try to get some of these dudes, including these great flying guys with the big funny guns. I would like to see these guys probably, I don't know why that happened, in my, all right, sure, why not? In my my Primaris army, which currently, like originally I built a 2,000 point army, and I'm still hoping to paint it soon or potentially have it painted. I've got some ideas. But because of the point changes, since I built it, it's actually come back down. It's like it used to be like seriously like 1,998 points, and now according to Battle Scribe, it's now like 1,780 points. So I've got some room evidently to put some stuff in there, so I might give that a try. These guys are neat, I think. Although I have seen some models, I've seen some pictures of these guys not on these goofy clear stands, but just standing like on rocks. I think they look kind of better. So I might do that. I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, so definitely the Primaris stuff that I'm seeing in this box, I could see going into my normal 40k Primaris army. Because they're a different type. They're the Vanguard Space Marines. They're not quite scouts, or like Reavers kind of are. Although Reavers are not really scouts. Reavers are more like almost like guerrilla fighters to some degree. They're jumping in. They're terror troops. You know what I mean? Whereas this guy these guys are a little bit more scouty. They got slightly thinner armor. Like their legs, you can tell here. They've got more. They don't have the cankles that normal Primaris guys do, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, and they got the funny antennas, which means that they can do communications better, I guess. I don't know. So I could see working these guys into my 2,000 point army, potentially. The Chaos folks, however, like the standard, like, this dude is not going into Kill Team. It's just not. It'd be sort of cool if he could, but there's no possibility. I could potentially work him into my Chaos army that I currently have, which is 1,500 points, with another 500 points that are like 3/4 painted, which is basically some obliterators, which got better in the most recent book, and like 2 hell brutes. So yeah, so being able to work these guys into my Chaos army, I could see doing that. Whoops, I got flickery. That being said, the standard like regular style kind of new Chaos Space Marine guys, I may start a new kill team with these guys. I'm not sure, but I may start a new kill team. And then what that will allow me to do, which would be nice, would be allow me to bring my current models that are in my Chaos kill team and just put them back in with the regular army, because then they could be my normal 40k army, and these guys I could spend a little bit more time on, and I could make them. It's very funny that he looks like he's got like if you look here, this guy, he's all covered in gold, trim, and he's got these cool horns and all this neat stuff going on there, but it looks like he's used like an old bandage to keep his holster on his pistol just wrapped around his thigh. That's weird. I wonder why he did that. Anyway, yeah, so my thought process is that the Primaris folks, or, well, technically they're Vanguard Primaris, Vanguard Space Marines, they're going to probably end up in my regular Space Marines 40k army. Certain parts of the Chaos Demonkin are going to end up probably as a detachment or something like that with my normal Chaos 40k army, but the regular ground troop kind of dudes, the regular Chaos Space Marine guys, like these folk, not this is the whole army, but just the regular guys will probably become a new kill team for me for Chaos because I think they're very cool. Big Spider Dude, I would definitely like to add him to my regular kill team, or not, obviously not kill team, to my regular 40k Chaos army. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Some of these other things like this, like the dude, the possessed aren't gonna be able to go into kill team. This guy with the cool autocannon, I'm pretty sure can't go into kill team as much as I would like him to. He's pretty cool. But I don't know. We're gonna see because they're also releasing a new just regular Chaos Space Marine army, or not army, but a Chaos Space Marine box next week, which I thought they were doing this week, but I was wrong. So they're doing that, and I'll be able to get like heavy bolters and things like that in there. So I might have some of those guys mixed in with some of these guys from Shadowspear, and that becomes my new kill team. Then the question becomes, well, do I do Black Legion? I mean, because it's the same thing with Space Marines in kill team, whether they're Blood Angels or Space Wolves or whatever, doesn't matter because none of that matters in kill team. They're just Adeptus Astartes. There you go. These guys are Heretic Astartes. So if I did want to do, if I wanted to paint them up as Night Lords or paint them up as, Alpha Legion or something like that, it's just basically because I wanted to try that paint scheme and it's a fluff thing, but there's no special rules for the different, legions or the different chapters or anything like that in Kill Team. So at that point, it just becomes then a question of, well, if I do these guys as Black Legion, then at some point, if I wanted to, I could move them back to my normal Chaos Army, which is predominantly Black Legion, and that would be fine too. So that's another reason why I'm thinking about sticking with Black Legion, but we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing with the stuff that's in Shadowspear. I mean, there's books in there too. There's 3 like little mini books. One is just the Vanguard Space Marine like kind of mini codex. One is the Demonkin mini codex, and the other one is kind of a scenario kind of guide sort of thing. But yeah, it's a great looking model set. It is. And like I said, definitely. Big Spider Dude is going to go into my normal 40k army because that's just an awesome model. Like, I love how he's got, like he's covered in armor, but he's not a robot because you can see a bunch of crazy, like, skin and icky, kind of like you do with the putrid blight drones or whatever, where, like, they're covered in armor, but there's just a bunch of, like, weird icky skin hanging out the back, and you know that underneath all that there's, like, a thing in there. So I just dig that kind of stuff with Chaos in general. So yeah, I would definitely look forward to painting this guy up. And the way that they've painted these guys to be Black Legion looks amazing. Now, that all being said, I shudder at the idea of trying to get this into like some foam to take in places, because like just this like spike up here, all these spikes, this thing, these pointy bits, oi, that's going to be that's going to be a tough one. What the hell just happened there? All right, there we go. So anyway, that is what we're talking about with our friends, the Shadowspear models. So, looking forward to getting the chance to build and paint and do those guys. I will probably start with the stuff I'm going to do for Kill Team, honestly, first. I will probably get to start building them in mid-April, if I'm lucky. That's probably where that's at. Mid-April to late May, I won't have any travel, I don't think. And then all throughout July, I don't think I'll have any travel either. Although, like, literally August 1st is Gen Con, so it's, it'll start up right away. And then the very end of August is Nova, so yeah, there'll be a lot of that going on too. George says, I would be surprised if some of these Shadowspear units aren't listed as options in the Elites expansion when that drops. That's a very good point. You're probably right. Also, they may at some point release, like with some of those like HQ type folks, I could see some of those maybe being also add-ons in Commander. Like they may release just like, oh, if you want to use these guys in Commander, here you go. Just kind of like they did with Blackstone Fortress. In Blackstone Fortress, they had, like they weren't in the box when you bought it. There were 40k rules for the Blackstone Fortress models in the box when you bought Blackstone Fortress, but it was like 3 or 4 weeks later, 3 weeks I think, until they released a PDF that said, and here's all the rules for Kill Team for the majority of the models in that box. Like the Spindle drones aren't going into Kill Team. stuff like that. But like the majority of the rest of those models could either be, some of them were commanders, some of them were very specific, like this one has to be a zealot and only in the Imperial Guards army, and this one has to be a sniper and only in the Imperial Guards army, stuff like that. And then they also, with the Chaos folks, they actually made in Blackstone Fortress, like the kill team rules for the Chaos side of that box is they are their own sub-faction, and they're called Servants of the Abyss. So you can't take those models and just dump them into your normal Chaos. I mean, you can if you want to do counts as, certainly, but they don't just translate that way. They have their own complete set of rules, which is really cool, kind of, I think, because I'm going to be making a Servants of the Abyss with the models from that down the road. So, yeah. Eric says, you make it hard not to blow the budget seeing all this new stuff. I understand what you're saying. It's true. I find that I try to only pick up the stuff that I know that I'm going to use. I try to not buy stuff just because it's cool. I'm generally pretty good about that. Everybody's got their own limits. Some people are like, I only buy stuff when I run out of stuff to paint, or I only buy stuff when I've finished painting the last thing. I am not like that, but I don't just buy things because I think they're cool. If I did, I would buy, honestly, a lot more models from all kinds of different companies. But I knew with Shadowspear, I'm like, when I saw the stuff, originally I wasn't thinking about getting it, honestly. But then when I started looking at the stuff, and I was like, well, it's like, I don't think I need those Primaris, but then I started looking at my Primaris list and realized that the point change had given me a lot of extra space, and I'm like, well, I could do that. And then when I saw how cool the Chaos stuff was, I was like, well, I could do that. And then I started thinking about how I could make a new kill team based off of the stuff in this box, maybe mixed in with the stuff in the box come from next week, all that jazz. So, yeah. The other thing I said, like I said before, sometimes it's a good idea to pick stuff up if you can, when it comes out, because you don't know, like, I don't know how long Shadowspear will be around. I don't know if this is like an evergreen product they're going to keep up for a while, or if it's something that, is limited edition. They don't say frequently. Sometimes they do, but like, with certain versions of the codexes, when they come out with a new codex and it's got a crazy slip cover and a bunch of other junk and it's crazy expensive, they will tell you right up, hey, this is limited edition. Great, I'm not going to buy it. But people do. But sometimes you're like, hey, that's a cool new box that they just came out with. I'm going to get it, in a couple months, and then you find out you can't anymore because they're out. Those models will still be available, but they usually won't be available in this one package, which frequently gives you, like some sort of cost savings when you do that. That's just a way that the business seems to work. Josh Clark asks, do you think that there will be another Kill Team starter box? Do you even really need one? First of all, you don't need the starter box. If you want to play Kill Team, all you need is the $40 core book. You need some models and you need some terrain, but you don't need to have the models and terrain that came in the starter book. Starter box. With the starter book, you can look at all the different models that are available throughout that entire, because all the army lists are in that book. And again, that book should be being constantly, printed, so you should be able to find it that way. Excuse me. That all being said, you can use any kind of terrain that you want. You can pretty much, and you can use whatever models that are in the book or do counts as. Like I'm working on right now a Lizard Man kill team, which is going to be counts as Kroot, because they released a Kroot army list in White Dwarf. So I'm going to be doing that for fun. Anyway, but yeah, you don't need that starter box. That starter box was a great start. It was a great, frankly, it was a very nice discount on the amount of terrain and all that junk and everything. But they still sell the terrain separately if you want to go that direction. You could use terrain you already have. You could build your own terrain. You got all those different options. If you've already got some 40K models, probably a lot of the lower end, like troop type guys, will be in the Kill Team book. So yeah, you don't need that starter box. You honestly don't. All you need is the $40 core book, which you can either buy at your local shop, or you can get the the online version or whatever through iBooks or Google Play Books or whatever the heck it's called, and then you're set. That's all you really need. I mean, you dice and a ruler and all that jazz, but that's pretty much about it. What else have we got? What alternative Games Workshop companies do you like? I'm not sure if I understand the question. Like, are there other companies besides Games Workshop I like? Absolutely. Alternative to Games Workshop, I haven't used company. I haven't really used too many models from other companies to play Games Workshop games. I've gone the other direction quite a bit, where I've taken Games Workshop models and then used them in other games like Song of Blades and Heroes and stuff like that. As far as just other companies that are not Games Workshop, I'm a big fan of our friend moderator Matt's game, which is called Wreck Age. Wreck Age is a post-apocalyptic, technically post-collapse, as we like to say, game, a skirmish game of pretty much the remnants of society fighting against each other. And it's a great game, and it's got a great model line. They're metal models, but they are very well done, in my opinion. Like sometimes metal models, like old metal models, everything was like really flat, and because they, the modeling process. But these work out really nicely, and they're good models. So I like that game quite a bit. I like, as I mentioned, Song of Blades and Heroes, which is a very simple, it's a great starter teacher game of kind of fantasy skirmish. And what else do I play a bunch of? I've been also playing, I've been working on slowly my Conflict 47 army, which is alternate history World War II, and it's based off of kind of like the bolt action rule set from Warlord. So I got into historicals a bit with Flames of War, and then I sort of fell out of it, and I'm like, I still like historicals kind of, but I do sometimes want there to be lasers and werewolves in it. So Conflict 47 worked actually pretty damn well. So yeah. Rain 1134 says, just took you on a walk with me to the dollar store to pick up a bottle of LA is Totally Awesome. Well, good, spectacular. Excuse me. Yeah, well, that's good. Definitely give it a try. For stripping models, I've been real impressed. Now, admittedly, I left my model in there for probably 3 or 4 days. That was not my original intent. So I would like to try, like, what happens if you put it in there for an hour and see what it does in comparison to, say, 3 or 4 days, and see if it makes a difference. It was a plan where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this for a while, and then I'll go upstairs and scrub it and see what happens. And then other stuff got in the way, and then I forgot about it for several days. It didn't do any harm to the metal model. Like, almost nothing will, but it did. Man, like literally just taking it out of the fluid, a good portion of the paint slid back into the fluid as I pulled it out. Like, if you go back to that video with the Vampire Lord, the Uncle Adam's hot mess from, was it last Monday? Oh, well, yeah, I think it was. Like the big dumb blue wing, like most of that blue paint just went blurp and just slid right off. And then I took it upstairs, and then you could just see there was white primer underneath there. I took it upstairs and ran it under hot water, and the majority of the rest of the paint came off. I had to take a toothbrush into some nooks and crannies, but that was about it. Worked really, really well. Josh H. Have you acquired enough bullet and granola to last you for 5 days? Getting there. Well, there's a pretty big bottle of bullet back there. I'm also going to be bringing, I think, some Maker's Mark. I do have to go get granola, though, actually. I'm getting to the point now where I have to sit down and really, like, this afternoon I'm going to, well, okay. So this afternoon I have to film a video for next Friday. Not even sure what it's going to be yet. And then tomorrow night, I have to film the video for next Monday. And I also still have to pack all my equipment and clothes. And I've got to make some beer dip and some other things. So yeah, there's a lot going on. But yeah, it's gonna be a good time. I enjoy going to a Devta Con. What else have we got going on here? Legionnaire says, I have to get my life rescheduled so I can game again. Yeah, I know how that goes. I did get actually a game of Kill Team in last week. That was fun. It fit just about perfectly, and it was a good time. I did not quite win. I think the total score was 8-6, so it was close-ish, but not. I was running my Necrons versus Genestealer Cult. So yeah, definitely. Shifty Baboon asks, rather shiftily, I suspect, ever had a game that you got really into and then regretted buying everything? Don't Dark Age, probably, from Cool Mini or Not, yes. A couple years back, like Dark Age has been around forever in certain different incarnations, not carnations, in certain different incarnations. It's been all over the board. And then, like, honestly, I remember originally seeing Dark Age when Gen Con was still in Milwaukee, which means it was in the late 90s. Anyway, several years back at Gen Con, me and a friend bought a bunch of Dark Age, and we were really all excited. And then I built and painted my army, which was a small army. It can be a very small kind of skirmishy game. And I built my initial army, which is maybe 10 models, maybe less. But they're these cool robots. I honestly liked the models fine, and I liked the paint jobs I was able to pull off on them. Then I played the game. Like, I had played a demo and it seemed fun, and then I played a game against a guy locally who had been playing and knew what he was doing, and he just stomped me hard. And not only did that bother me, which it shouldn't, but it did sort of. During that entire game, he would be like, well, this is the way the rules are, and then I would be like, really? And then and he really knew the game. Like, he was very, very, very good at it. He had played like in the big tournament at Gen Con, and I think he had won. And so he's like, yeah, this is the way. And then I would go back and read the rules later and be like, he's right. This is not wrong. He's not like trying to like just pull the wool over my eyes. This is actually so there's just a lot of rules to that game that just I did not enjoy. They didn't make sense to me. So honestly, for the amount of stuff that I bought for that game, like I'm the small army that I bought, but I bought more stuff beyond that, which I'm probably never going to paint. I should see if I can flip it on eBay or something like that. But the stuff that I painted, I'm never going to flip because I don't sell models that I've painted generally. But yeah, that's the game probably right now that I can think of off the top of my head that I wish I hadn't really jumped into, especially since I played it the one time. Then after that, and now the models sit in foam down in the basement someplace. Rabbit Burner says, just stabbed my thumb with a pin vise drilling out Gretchen barrels. Ouch. Yeah, I've done that as well. It's not fun. Always, if you can, one way to kind of help that is not the actual, now that you've done it, but to prevent that is, and I made a video about drilling your barrels, is to make a pilot hole first. I use like a big needle and I poke it in there and I make my pilot hole, and then that way when you're drilling it doesn't slide out as easily or it doesn't get off center and that kind of stuff, and it doesn't go into your thumb, hopefully. So just, obviously I'm being a little bit Captain Hindsight here, but and maybe you were even doing that, but again, that's something to watch out for. Brian Griffith says, I heard that is beard dip, and I wondered what you were up to. Again, I do have a cold, so it probably came across that way. No, beer dip, like beer is in, I don't know, lager, I don't know, whatever. I have the recipe here. If you want it, I'll give it to you, if I can find it. My friend Sam, well, Sam, Painter Sam, his brother's wife, makes a whole bunch of beer dip generally, which then comes to a Devta Con. But me and my roommate at the convention, my friend Eric, we want to kind of have our own as well, just because sometimes it's just easier, Anyway, so you need a 16-ounce whipped cream cheese, like tub thing. You need one dry packet of ranch. Just one dry ranch packet is what it says. So you can look that up, figure that out. You need 1 cup of shredded sharp cheddar. I would tell you to shred it yourself, because then it's just better. But whatever, it's up to you. And then 1/8 of a cup or so of beer, and then you just mix it all up real hard. That's pretty much it. So it's 16-ounce whipped cream cheese, 1 dry ranch packet, 1 cup of shredded sharp cheddar, and then 1/8 of a cup or so of beer. And then, boom, you've got beer dip. And then you dip into it pretzels, pretty much, little pretzels. And you try not to get your knuckles too much into the beer dip, and then you get beer dip all over your knuckles. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's spectacular. It's very tasty. What else have we got? George says, trying to decide now that the local Path to Glory is finished, I need to decide how to expand my squig army. Can't decide between a Mangler squig or a second loon boss on a Mangler. I don't know. I'm familiar with both of those models. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the rules, but I'm familiar with both of them. I don't know. The Mangler Squig is pretty cool. I don't know if you want to go with the necessarily. Can you magnetize it so that the Loon Boss can be removed? That would be kind of cool. I don't know if you can do that or not, though. Nick is looking a bit rough today, says moderator Matt. That's true. He's got a bit of an eye issue there. He's probably got a cold like me. Honestly, it's if I have to guess. Let's see here. Paul says hobbying while healing from surgery and listening to you. Well, I hope everything gets better, Paul. I'm glad that you're at least well enough to be able to listen while after surgery. I'm glad the surgery went seemingly pretty well. What else here? Rabbit Burner says, yeah, I used a pin for a pilot hole. Thanks for one of your previous videos, so thanks for that. Just need some more practice. Again, I'm glad that worked out, but it's bummer about your thumb. So just put some Neosporin or something on there so you don't get an infection. Nobody wants that. Granberg says, if you were to Marie Kondo your collection, what would be the top minis for games you'd get rid of? For me, it's the cool mini games I've bought. Zombicide and the others. Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, again, I would probably say like most of the Dark Age stuff. Probably also. I don't know. That's probably like that stuff would be stuff I could see myself getting rid of if anybody was going to go down that road and actually buy it. I could see myself getting rid of. I think maybe Dreadball, because I've got like the original Kickstarter for Dreadball from Mantic, which I've never really played. Definitely that too. Useful G says, wouldn't be a Wisconsin recipe without loads of cheese. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point. Roland says, Adam, I wanted to say thank you for what you do. So many times I have been discouraged and thought of walking away from the hobby, but the content you put out is truly genuine and keeps me with it. Well, I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad that you're sticking with the hobby, and I'm glad that the videos are helping. I think that one of the benefits to the hobby is that if you do feel down or lost in it to some degree, you can set it aside for a while. I mean, I would not tell you to set it aside for years because it becomes problematic then, and a lot of times your paints dry out or who knows what. Not all the times, but sometimes. But you can set it aside for a while and come back to it and not feel, like sometimes in video games, you set a video game aside for a while and then you come back and either there's been a bunch of new additions or updates and things like that which are confusing and weird to you, or new maps, or maybe the game server is shut down, or maybe there's all kinds of weird stuff. Whereas with games, tabletop games, maybe there's a new FAQ, maybe that kind of stuff. But for the most part, there's nothing also wrong with if you're just playing amongst friends. You don't have to follow the FAQs. You don't have to follow new codexes. I mean, there's people out there right now, probably right now, they're playing like 3rd edition 40K and having a great time with it. And they know that 8th edition is out there, but this is the version they like, and so they can play it. Whereas, let's say you wanted to play EverQuest, but it was a version from 10 years ago, or I don't even know if EverQuest is around anymore. I don't think you can play it anymore, not without a hell of a lot of work, or building your own server, or doing something weird like that. So that's one of the benefits, I think, to tabletop gaming like this. And so, and you can always also switch gears too. If you are tired of painting for a while and it's become daunting, then just go out and play a bunch of games for quite a while, and then hopefully your painting interest will come back, and then because you'll play enough that you'll be like, I really want to add these guys and these guys, and then you'll have a reason, and that's kind of the big deal, I think. Kelly asks, Adam, have you ever been so slow painting something that 1 or 2 new editions come out before you finish a starter set? When I kind of started, there was some of that, certainly. I've gotten faster in my old age, for lack of a better term, but as I've been doing it longer, I've been getting faster. There's also something to be said also for, again, and I harp on this a lot in the videos, but there's something to be said about good enough. Like this Vampire Lord that I've worked like now 4 hours on, since I've primed him, he's not going to win any awards, but he's going to look good enough on the tabletop that I'll be pretty happy with him. And then it will allow me to get into other things I need to get into. You know what I mean? It'll allow me to work on the next models. If I spend way too long on him, it's slowing me down from being able to go further with other stuff. So that's why I get him good enough. Yep, I'm pretty happy with this. Cool, let's move on to the next part. Because even like okay painted models are better than unpainted models. That's just the way I look at it. Fancy says that EverQuest has its 20th birthday at the moment. Well, there you go. See, that's an example that I used that is probably false. But if you wanted to play like the old, like I mean, I even like World of Warcraft. If you wanted to play like old World of Warcraft, you have to like really search to find a server that hasn't had all the updates and all that kind of stuff. And you know what I'm saying? It's kind of not necessarily the greatest analogy, but it's in the right area. Andreas asks, looked at Saga, Age of Magic any, or are you staying in sci-fi? I generally stay sci-fi, but I do play Age of Sigmar, you know, so I do like a bit of fantasy, but I've watched some Saga at Devta Con quite a bit. I've never played a demo. I think, frankly, like, I don't know, I have to check out this new Saga Age of Magic, because the Saga that I've always seen in the past has been pretty historical. So there's been no magic, because historically, magic's not actually a real thing, no matter what David Copperfield might tell you. But, yeah, so I don't know, I have to look into it. I've not really heard of Saga Age of Magic, but if it's kind of like Saga, but with some magic in it, that might be kind of interesting. I gotta say that the models frequently for Saga, because they are so historically accurate, for lack of a better term, in comparison to, say, you know, Nurgle Blight Kings and stuff like that for Age of Sigmar, the Saga models have not usually, you know, gotten me super excited. What else have we got here? Looking to get more into Kill Team, and I want to get 3 teams, but I want them to be vastly different from each other. Any ideas on how to build teams that play well against each other? Depends on what your definition of well is, I think. If you want them to be vastly different, then I would probably look at a Tyranid army for Kill Team, a Tau army for Kill Team, and maybe like a power armor type, whether it's Primaris or regular, you know, Space Marines, or Chaos even, Space Marines, something along those lines, army. Now, whether they play well against each other, like the Tau army is very shooty and not good at hand-to-hand, whereas the Tyranid army is frequently not too shooty and very good at hand-to-hand. So at that situation, it becomes, can the Tyranids get to the Tau before they are all shot off the board? And if they do, then it's generally game over for the Tau, because the Tau don't know what to do against scything talons all up in their face. So that's kind of difficult to say if they're good against each other. Yeah, that's a good question. If you're just basically looking for very different armies, I would go Tyranid, Tau, and like some sort of power armor. You can go Deathwatch. Deathwatch is pretty cool because, again, relatively low model count, all kinds of weird weapons, frag cannons. They can be swapping between ammo types all the time, stuff like that. That's kind of fun. So yeah, those are my okay suggestions. VJ Morph asks, magic isn't real? What? No, that's what I've read. It was in the paper. Lucas asks, should I get a knight army for 40k? I tend to like the playstyle of bigger, fewer units. If you like bigger, fewer units, then that's probably a way to go. Lord knows, at the last 2 conventions I was at, being the Nova Open in DC back in late August, early September, and then at the Las Vegas Open in Las Vegas, which was in February, like everybody, like I did on Instagram, I showed a picture. I showed a series of 10 pictures on Instagram of just like everybody. If you had an Imperial army of any style, there was also a knight in it. Like everybody was running in that tournament. Like, oh, your Imperial Guard, there's a knight. You know, Adeptus Mechanicus, knight. Everything had a knight in it. As long as they possibly could take a knight, they had a knight. So there was a lot of that. If you want to run a knight army because you like small, like big units, but less of them, then that's the way to go. It's expensive, kind of, and I don't want to say it's a glass hammer, but from what I understand, and I'm no strategist here, but from what I understand, there's a bunch of different ways to be able to kind of, you know, mitigate it. So that's something. But yeah, it's certainly viable from what I understand. Um, Lodwijkabab. That's not right at all. I didn't pronounce that properly. Hey, Adam, I'm having trouble with sitting down and painting for much longer than 30 minutes without burning out and being unable to hobby for the rest of the day. Any advice for that? Define burning out. Like, is it that like your eyes start to hurt too much and you get like a headache? Because then that's probably you need better glasses. You need maybe magnifying thingy. You need better light, that kind of stuff. If you just get tired of it, then I would definitely look into audio. I would definitely look into listening to podcasts. I would definitely look into listening to like audiobooks, because 30 minutes of an audiobook will fly by super fast, and then you'll be like 2 hours in and be like, I'm still listening to this audiobook because it's very interesting and whatever. So yeah, definitely I would look into, like, whenever I sit down to paint or hobby or whatever, I always have headphones on, which is why people ask me from time to time, they're like, hey, you should hobby on Twitch, and then that'll be a thing. I don't think I can, because I have a tendency to need to have audio in my ears, podcast, audiobook, something like that, while I'm working, specifically painting. Oh, damn it, the camera blocked up again. And so that's kind of a problem. Like, I can't do that otherwise. That's an attractive look. I'm gonna reboot the thingy here real quick. If I can do that, just reach over here, unplug that. Okie dokie. Plug it back in. I was just thinking, man, the camera hasn't screwed up in a while. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, definitely use audio as a crutch. Use it to help you. Because the thing is that if you're listening to an audiobook, and I've said this a bunch of times before, if you're listening to an audiobook and you want to listen to the next chapter, you're not going to just sit there and listen to the next chapter in your living room or whatever, you're going to listen to it while you're hobbying, you know what I mean? Because that's just the way it works. Yeah, so definitely find yourself a good series of audiobooks or some podcasts that you really enjoy. They don't have to even be gaming podcasts. I like to listen sometimes to, there's a great podcast called The Dollop, which is a dollop, like a dollop of, I don't know, sour cream or something like that. DOLLOP. And it is two comedians, and one of them does the research and writes and it's about American history. And one of them like does the research and then writes the podcast, and then explains this bit of American history to the other guy, who's also a comedian, who has no idea what the topic is going to be about. So it's all his reaction to these crazy bits of American history and things like that, and it's pretty hysterical. So yeah, I would look into something like that, or Hardcore History by Don Harmon, somebody. People talk about that guy all the time, and those are evidently amazing. So there's a lot of different podcasts and audiobooks you can listen to, which will help you hopefully do more painting quickly, that kind of jazz. All that stuff. Yes, that frozen screen did look a bit like a sneeze in progress. It wasn't, so I guess I got that going for me. But yeah. Chris Castle says, I tend to have bat reps on TV while I paint. It's good background noise, and it keeps me in the mood for 40K stuff while I work. If that works for you, that's awesome. For me, I can't watch anything while I'm painting because I can't split my visual focus. Like, I can't ignore the television or whatever, even if it's like something I've seen a bunch of times before. Like, I've seen RoboCop like 30, 40 times, but if I put on RoboCop, I'm watching RoboCop, I'm not painting. It just doesn't work for me that way. Emerald asks, did you already go over the title of the Sunday show? I'm curious your thoughts on Shadowspear. I did. I basically said that the Primaris guys that are in there, which are the Vanguard type Space Marines, they will probably end up in my normal Primaris 40K army for the most part. A bunch of the Chaos stuff, like the more HQ type dudes and the big spider thing and all that stuff, will probably end up in my Chaos 40K army. But a bunch of the regular kind of Chaos Space Marine folks will probably get worked into a new kill team that I'm working on of Chaos guys, and then I can take my current Chaos kill team and I can put those models back into my regular 40K models, and then I'm not constantly, like, if I decide to play a game of regular 40K with Chaos, I have to go find kill team stuff and dig those guys out and put them back in. Otherwise, I don't have enough guys. So yeah, that's going to be helpful, I think, as well. So what that means is that my normal Chaos Space Marine army will predominantly still be, staffed by the older, Chaos Space Marine models and not the new fancy ones, at least for the foreseeable future. But we'll see down the road, maybe. Lux asks, do you think a version 2 codices a la CSM, think GW should keep doing it, or is there too much of a money grab? In this situation, like they've said, if you've got the version 1 book, and I've heard it 2 different ways. Either A, if you buy Shadowspear, the mini codex is in there, plus the version 1 book, you're good. I've also heard the version 1 codex plus the Vigilus campaign book, you're good. You don't need to buy the version 2. So in that situation, definitely it's fine. You don't have to buy the new one and update. That's great. If it was like a situation where they were like, nope, you got to buy the second one, old one's thrown out, then that would be sort of a bummer. But the question is, do they want to, like, which is better? Is it better to make 9th edition 40k in like another year or so and then have to redo all the codices again? Or is it better to make some updates? Because then new people who want to get into Chaos Space Marines, they can just buy the 2nd edition book or whatever, version 2, and they know they have the right one, and now they're good. And if you already have the version 1, you can choose to keep it and either get Shadowspear if you want to add those models or whatever. Like, there's not a lot of changes specifically. Like, if you're not going to buy any of those new models and you're not going to do the Vigilus stuff and everything, like, technically the Chaos Book 1 is still good. Your points need to be updated, but that's all done now through chapter approved. And that comes out every year, and that's a whole different discussion. But that's the way that they're doing it. It's up to you, like how out of joint your nose is, particularly about the situation. But I don't see a big deal. If they were to said book 1 is garbage, throw it in the river, then that I would have been like, well, first of all, that's bad for the fish, just throwing it in the river. Secondly, couldn't there have been some sort of way we could have just updated this? But they did basically update it, so you have those options. Mr. Kevoshi asks, did you retire Captain Tickles? It's actually Uncle Tickles. No, he's still in the army. The downside is that, like, well, he's maybe a bit retired because he's kind of corn, because he's red. And he's got dual lightning claws and he's a Terminator Chaos Lord. There's not... it's not great, honestly. Unfortunately, the new rules, and when I say the new rules, I don't even mean like the new version 2. I mean the 8th edition codex for Chaos Space Marines was not super kind to Tickles, but we'll see. I should probably sit down and try to like rewrite my Chaos lists a little bit. I've been kind of running the same one mostly lately, but I do want to do that. Adam, I'm getting into Kill Team, and I bought the Necron starter box and rule book. What's your recommendation to add to that starter force? So if the starter force you're talking about is the Kill Team starter force for Necrons, then I believe that it comes with 5 Immortals in that box. The Immortals can also be built as Death Marks. I would probably build at least 1 Death Mark. Probably. Like, my Necron army, I always bring a Death Mark with me. He's the sniper type dude. I have to admit, he seems to underwhelm me. Like, I don't know what it is, but I miss with him all the time. I have a communications guy that I try to keep near him, and the communications guy can give the sniper a +1 to hit. The sniper, Death Mark, also doesn't have to worry about the range restriction, where normally, like, if you shoot something, if you go more than half the distance, so like, let's say it's a 24-inch weapon. If you shoot over 12 inches, then you get a -1 to hit. The sniper weapon does not have that problem. Plus, I think it's either if you get a 6 to hit or a 6 to wound, I forget which one, you get like an extra mortal wound in there. So I've used my comm guy to give him now, I can't tell you how many ones I've rolled with that goddamn guy. He just annoys the hell out of me. So I would tell you to build a Death Mark with the Synaptic Disintegrator Sniper Doohickey. Hopefully he works better for you than mine has. My guy has been a bit of a failure, and I think I might need to take a picture of him and shame him publicly on the internet and see if that works. Otherwise, the thing to add probably to that list is going to be some regular warriors. I've added some flayed ones to my Necron list, but when I played last week, I forgot to bring them, so I didn't run them. So I can't tell you how well they've worked, but they're the only close combat really that you have in the army. I wish I would have had them with me because the mission we were playing really could have helped with some good close combat. So we'll see. But definitely, if the box that you bought is the one that has the 5 immortals in it, which can also be built as death marks, if you're going to build a death mark, build one. I would not tell you to build multiples, and then go with some probably some warriors as your next best step. Have you ever read through the rules of this game called Rogue Star from Osprey? Asks Marco. If you love Song of Blades and Heroes, you really should. It's the same author, and it's a great and deep sci-fi skirmish. Yes, I do have a copy of it. I picked it up when it was first went out of print the first time. I luckily found a copy at a shop in Madison that would just had one, which was great. So I did pick it up. I know it's by Andrea from Song of Blades and Heroes. It's honestly a little deeper than I would like, frankly. I did enjoy reading through it and stuff like that, but it is maybe almost a bit too deep for me. There's like a lot of denseness there, and sometimes I don't know, like it just seemed more dense than I would have liked. But it is it's an interesting system. So yeah, I'm glad that it went well for them. Definitely. If Chaos Terminators are allowed in Kill Team Elites, your new Kill Team could be Uncle Tickle's Torturers. Well, potentially. I don't know. I don't know if they'll let in... Well, maybe they will. Maybe he could be an Elite. A dual Lightning Claws, though? It's hard to say. Ruben asks, display miniature context. Is it possible to be penalized for using a printed background? Where is the limit in the tools you can use? Brush, airbrush, printer. I mean, I'm not a judge, and I'm not even really into display painting. That being said, I have seen plenty of display pieces on a plinth, like a square plinth, and then there's like a background behind it, and I've never seen one printed out. I would bet they all need to be hand painted. Everyone that I've ever seen has always been hand painted, so if you just printed out a picture and stuck it onto the back there behind, I would bet you would probably be downvoted for that. Like decals, like you put in like a water slide decal onto a model, that seems to be fine. But printing a picture and putting it behind the model like that, probably not going to get you any favors from the judges. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Let's see here. What else? Hey, Uncle, my SO and I have been enjoying Blackstone Fortress so far, and we're painting some of the heroes today. Any advice for someone who's fairly new? Don't compare yourself to the pictures that you see on the website. Don't worry if you're not happy with like if you're just like, well, it's just not quite good enough. Move on to your next piece and kind of go back. If worst comes to worst, you can always go back and strip the model and do it again later once you get better. But don't concern yourself too much with like, well, it doesn't look like it does in the box, and so I'm going to quit. Like, understand that as the both of you are new and getting into this, that nothing is everything is temporary. So you can paint and play with it for a while, and then when you get better because you've painted some other things, you painted the other things, you want to come back to Blackstone Fortress and be like, you know what, I could really do better on this guy and this guy for sure. Then strip them and then start over, and it's not that hard. And then it's like you get to paint multiple models, but you don't have to pay to paint multiple models because you just paint the same model multiple times, and then you're saving money. It's simple economics. But yeah, good luck on that, and it's a lot of fun. It really is. Eric Olson says, miniature sculpts are becoming more detailed. While this is great for experienced painters, do you see this as a problem for new people coming into the hobby of them being too overly detailed? Honestly, I don't. I honestly think that a more detailed model is helpful because there are times when I'm painting a model and I can't tell what the heck I'm painting. Like if it's like, honestly, on this vampire lore that I'm working on for the Uncle Adam's Hot Mess, there's parts of it that I'm like, I don't know what the heck that's supposed to be. Is that part of his belt buckle? Is that the top of his cod piece? I don't know what the heck that is. And that's just because it's an old metal model, and it's an old style sculpt. Even if it was in plastic, if it was that same old style sculpt, or if it was, yeah, it's just not. More detail makes it easier for, at least in my mind, for the newer painter to look at the part and go, oh, I know what that is. I know that this is where the pants stop and this is where the leg starts, or whatever, that kind of stuff. And so that helps you, I think, identify pieces as you're trying to paint. I think it also helps sometimes when you can just be like, well, if I just throw a wash on this, it'll just pop out more because there's more detail for the wash to soak into. Whereas if it's just sort of a muddy, bad, like resin sculpt or something like that, you'd be like, ugh, I don't know what the hell that is, and then it's problematic. So, yeah, I would definitely say that more detail is helpful for also the newer painters and not just the veteran painters or whatever. Let me see here. What else? Sam Goose says that Null Oil can be lethal. I've seen a lot of people screw up units with a dirty black wash. I mean, it depends on what you want to do. Like, if you want your guys to look kind of battle-worn and grungy and dirty, that can work. I would not throw a Null Oil over a bright color, because it will generally... I mean, unless you wanted the bright color to look like it was soiled. But yeah, Null Oil is... In certain places, it works super well. In other places, you have to be a little bit more careful with it because you have to get it into the right places to make the detail pop. But if you've got like a yellow model you've painted, do not cover it in Null Oil. That will not work. Yeah, that's just the way it works. Any tips for starting out with getting or making my first terrain for the 40K games? What to get first? Well, if you're looking at buying kits, I mean, there's plenty of kits out there now that came out with the same time that Kill Team did. Really nice plastic kits that can make that Sector Imperialis stuff. That stuff's really good. And the Sector Mechanicum stuff that came out back when Shadow War Armageddon came out. Those are also really good kits. If you're going to decide to get something outside of that, if you can find stuff from Gale Force 9, like they have Battlefield in a box. They've got different kits for that, and those are predominantly all pre-painted, so those are also very quick and easy to get on the table. Otherwise, I would definitely look on YouTube to find places that teach good tips on how to build your own stuff from scratch. It's a whole extra part of the hobby, which is a lot of fun, in my opinion. So yeah, I would definitely look into those things as well. Uncle Adam, is it worth buying any Age of Sigmar army that does not have a recent battle tome? It seems that they are overhauling quite a bit. Well, I mean, if you're trying to get real competitive and you build a list and they haven't had a recent battle tome, they may get one soon, which then may make you have to change your list. So I guess there's that. If you're not super competitive, then buy what you like, because they won't get rid of any models, certainly, but maybe sometimes the model's effectiveness may fluctuate. Either go down or get better, and you may not have enough of them, or you may have too many of them, or whatever, that kind of thing. But they generally don't get rid of stuff in that in 40K or in Age of Sigmar. Brian Griffith says, I feel like in particular Infinity sculpts can be tough for newer painters because the lack of sculpted details means your shading has nowhere to hide. Yeah, that's kind of also part of it too. It's difficult sometimes when there's not a lot of detail, you need to kind of almost paint in some of the detail, and that can be very tough on new painters as well. The other issue I have with Infinity is that at least the older models I found very difficult to build. Now, from what I understand that they're still metal, but they've made the models easier to build these days. I haven't tried in quite some time to build any Imperial or Infinity models, but like I said, in the earliest ones I tried to build were monstrously difficult. Excuse me. Having some throat issues this morning as the cold is leaving my head, I hope. Let me see here. What else have we got? Frederick asks, Adam, have you ever tried to paint a very large model, such as privateer pressed colossals? Is your approach different compared to smaller based miniatures? Oh, absolutely. I mean, larger models, generally, I'm going to use airbrush, just straight off the bat. Like, I'm going to use airbrush not just for priming, but also for base coating, very frequent for highlighting. Not crazy detail, but maybe even trying to attempt a little bit of detail. Yeah, so there's going to be plenty of that. And then beyond that, I also don't... I find when a model gets bigger, other than airbrush highlighting, I don't try to paint the light as much. You know what I mean? I don't try to, like, use paint to make the shadows darker and the highlights lighter, like in certain spots. Because when the model is larger, just the natural light does that more. As a model gets smaller, you have to fake it more and more. It's just something to do with the physics of light. But, yeah, so that's the case. I do a lot more airbrush preliminary work, and I do a lot more shading and stuff like that, and highlighting and things like that with the airbrush, and then I get into detail. If you have a lot of space, too, it's also easier to try to do fun tricks like, you know, sometimes airbrush stencils. Like if you want to have, like, you've got some sort of large creature, and you want to be able to try to put, like, weird spots kind of like on his haunches or something like that, like kind of like Glotkin. If you want to have some like spots down there, you can kind of do that with some airbrush stencils because you've got more room to work. Whereas on a little tiny guy who's only this big, it's very difficult to get airbrush stencils in there. So yeah. Ninja Kazzle says, pressed enter too soon. Look at the horizon at least an hour for 5 minutes. Give your eyes a chance to relax as they change focus. Oh, talking about, yeah, well, so I find after several hours of painting, because I have a tendency, like these are bifocals, but I still, when I'm painting, I have a tendency to look over the top. Just I like the close focus in here is fine for reading, but I still like to paint closer, so I end up looking over the top. So I'm doing that, which is not good. It's not good for your head, whatever, mostly your eyes. And so I will get like a eye strain headache after some time, depending. Better light helps, things like that. I should probably get one of those crazy head-mounted magnifier glass things or whatever, but I just haven't. But I should probably do that. That all being said, what I've been finding lately is that once I start to get the eye strain headache, I have a tendency to come upstairs then and either watch YouTube on the TV in the den, or somewhat, I've also been playing video games here and there. Actually, me and moderator Matt have played some... We played some pirate game. The hell's that called? Sea of Thieves. We've played that a little bit, and we've played some Apex Legends on PlayStation 4. So, if I was to do a Twitch channel, I mean, I already have a Twitch channel. I have I've got my name in there or whatever, so it's, twitch.tv/tabletop minions. So, but I've not really ever published anything in there. But if I did, I almost have kicked around the idea of like, well, I might just do video game content sometimes on there and just play with like Matt and other like video game or other tabletop game people maybe, and then just have conversations as we're playing about tabletop game stuff and call it like Uncle Adam's Paint Break or something like that. I've kicked that idea around, but I haven't kicked it around that hard. I would have to get a PC in the den and then put in a capture card and go through all that rigmarole, and I just don't know if it's I don't know if there's a benefit to it to doing Twitch that way. Like live streaming here on YouTube is fine, and I enjoy doing these every other Sunday shows and that kind of stuff, and it works out pretty well. I don't know if people would care that much to watch me play video games and talk about not video games or something. You know what I mean? I'm not sure. But I'm always thinking about like what's coming in the future, what am I doing next, that kind of stuff. So that's an idea that I've had recently. Let me see here. Tony says, one option for making terrain, picking up a 3D printer. That's true. You can get an Ender 3 for roughly the same price as a few boxes of terrain from GW. You can find an unlimited variety of terrain on Thingiverse. Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I own a 3D printer, so I'm on board with that. You can get a Ender 3 for roughly the same price as a few boxes of terrain from GW. If you buy the $100 boxes of terrain, like the new big Basilicum thing, then yes, that's true. Because from what I understand, the Ender 3 is about $200 to $250. But if you buy like $35 boxes of terrain, then no, you're probably not going to get a decent, or even I don't even know if you can get a 3D printer for under $100. Maybe you can, but it probably won't work very well. And then of course there's the filament and stuff like that, and the electricity and whatever, all that jazz. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. I like it, and I do like it definitely for terrain. That all being said, it's not like the Ender 3 is a great printer from what I understand, and I almost kind of want one, even though I don't need another 3D printer, Lord knows. But it's supposed to be very good, and it is also supposed to be very reasonably priced. Like I said, at least under $300, if not under $250. So if you bought expensive boxes of terrain from GW, then yeah, a couple of boxes of terrain, it's about the same price. That's technically true. Headhunter says, Adam, I have the same vision issues, the eye strain thing, but the Optivisor really helped a lot. I can paint longer, more accurately, and I don't get headaches and tension from the eye strain and posture. Optivisor, that's a good name too. I'm going to take a picture of the word Optivisor as a way to give myself, where'd it go? Optivisor. Poke, there we go. Yeah, so I'm always looking for stuff like that, and I mostly take notes a lot of times with my phone. I'm just taking pictures because then I go back later and look at my pictures and go, what the hell? Oh yeah. So anyway, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. The Noob Painter says, hey guys, any Devta Con talk? I did earlier give my recipe for beer dip, not beard dip. I've got a cold, but beer dip. So that's Devta Con talk, because I'll be taking that with me to Devta Con. So yeah, there's that kind of stuff. George says you can get a capture device that is just plug and play with your laptop. Technically, I have one. I bought the Elgato HD60S, I think. I haven't tried it with my laptop. I'm a little dubious that my laptop will be powerful enough, although, well, it's Core i7. It's got 16 gigs of RAM. Might be. I should try it with my laptop, because that would be easier than trying to get another get a PC in a den and all that jazz. So yeah, but it's an idea. Wilmar, or possibly Vilmar. I'm mispronouncing it, and I apologize. For smaller terrain, maybe. This is a response, I think, to the 3D thing. Bigger terrain will cost a lot of time, and detail is not just the same as molded. This is also very true. You can do really amazing stuff with a 3D printer for terrain, but understand that it will not be as smooth and as sharp looking as, like, high-quality GW stuff, or even the new high-quality Mantic terrain. Not Mantic. Well, Mantic has got very good terrain, too. Like, the battle system stuff is actually really quite nice. Malifaux is the word I meant to say. Those cool houses that I had some pictures on my Instagram of those cool plastic houses. I should just have my Instagram like open all the time for these shows. That's what I should do. Poke. There we go. Yeah, these cool houses made by Weird Games. And they are for Malifaux, but you could use them for all kinds of different things. But they're very cool looking. And they're also modular. Like the roof comes off, and then you can put a different roof on there from one of the other houses, and then it would look like a totally different thing. And they're just really well done. But they're just like the same gray hard plastic type stuff that GW uses on their terrain now. And very high quality, very high detail. And I've been really happy with... I bought 2 of these, not at this show, but actually last year at Origins. And they're very cool. So yeah, I really like, and like I said, the paint jobs that they did on these were spectacular. Like, that is nuts. Like, that blending, I mean, obviously it was all done with airbrush, probably, at least the big flat parts, but the blending on, yeah, it was just really, really well done. Like, if I was going to paint mine, I would probably make them look like they were super dirty and dusty and grungy, and then that way I wouldn't have to try to make them look as good as this. But yeah, that's kind of the case. So, all right. So, where are we at? Oh, goodness, we're just about done with the shoe. All right. So, Darren Walker says, imagining beard dip. Don't do that. You really don't want to imagine that. Tyler Barry says, I have an Ender 3 with filament and other upgrades. I spent maybe $300. Best thing about Ender 3 is that there's a lot of community support and printable upgrades for the printer. I've seen a lot of people talk about that particular printer, honestly. I've seen people talk about how they're actually even printing like 28 millimeter models, and they're not bad. They're not great, but they're not bad. For as inexpensive as it is, I should really look into getting one again, just maybe for the channel, just to be able to talk about it. I should reach out to them and see if they'll send me like a review version. I don't know if they would do that or not, maybe, but I'll take a look at it. Let me see what else. Matthew asks, curious about your thoughts and experience with BattleTech. The new box set sculpts are great. BattleTech was really my first wargame. In middle school, I was playing it, but we weren't even using miniatures. We were using little cardboard standees. And, oh, for God's sakes, the thing blocked up again. Anyway, it was a lot of fun, and I liked it, but I haven't played it in a long time, and the new version I haven't tried out, but I probably will at some point. I need to go blow my nose, and evidently me doing this with my hand is what you're going to see for the rest of the show now. So it'll be, like I said, 2 weeks until the next show, and it'll be 2 weeks of no show, and then the next one will happen in April, and so there you go. That's where we're at. So I apologize for the goofiness and my general head problems with the sinuses and all that stuff for this week. But thanks again for showing up, everybody, and we'll see you next time. And maybe I'll see you at Devta Con if you're going to be there.